And then other additional provisions from the corporate governance norms. These are again peculiar, additional responsibilities. I am saying peculiar because I heard SEBI saying that exchanges will have to monitor whether all these things have been done or not. Imagine this. Appointment letter of the ID shall be disseminated to company website, exchange website. Detailed profile of ID shall be disseminated to company website. Detailed profile should be given. Companies to provide suitable training to independent directors. Now imagine what is a suitable training. And will an independent director be amenable to a classroom type of training, on-the-job training? What is the training? How will it come? The answer to the question is, over a period of time it will evolve. But let us put this provision, therefore they put a provision saying that company's responsibilities is to provide training to the independent directors. It is coming out of corporate governance norms, therefore it becomes binding on listed companies to do this. And then companies to familiarize ideas with their roles, responsibilities, rights, nature of industry, business model. They have to induct the independent director and give him all this information. And details of the training given have to be disclosed in the annual report. So, disclosures is the way in which you are getting bound. Have you done training or not? How exactly it is? We have a difficulty. Actually, I am sharing in this room. We do conduct training programs for independent directors on the National Stock Exchange. They are all 70, 65, 70 plus and very high order people. I mean, we generally take training from them. And so, we have to give training to them. Who will train? Are we talking about a subject matter expert in the company, that is an executive in the company go and train him? Very difficult. I mean, and then how much can he disclose, how much can he talk to him in terms of training? It's difficult. The answer to this question was, it will evolve, let us wait for this particular thing to evolve. Therefore, let us have this provision, they have this provision. Yeah.
Until it all gets evolved, there will be a lot of lapses. So what are the consequences in the sense that if some of these things are not, norms are not complied with, the consequences are on the company or on the independent director or on the board?
I think whatever is very clearly on company, it will come on company only. And then independent directors, it will come in the performance evaluation, if at all. So most of the time, the company will be responsible, advise, warning, all this will happen initially.
In mutual fund industries, there is this concept of training of the independent directors of all mutual funds.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure which organization, there was a training sort of a government body which had conducted during the year various programs for training of independent directors and trustees of mutual fund.
Yes.
Something like, and all those enrollments for that were sponsored by the companies, I mean the mutual fund,
yes,
for their independent.
It was done by National Institute of Securities Market. NISM has done that, which is a SEBI's body itself. Yeah. They have done it. They have done it a big way. What we understand in the market response is 2-3 organizations are coming up which are going to specialize in training of independent directors. They are coming up with that. The complexity, as I foresee, is that a general law, general understanding, you can always create a training program, a seminar can be conducted. But then, let us say petrochemical industry, automobile industry. A person who is a chartered accountant or a lawyer, he has to go and understand how petrochemical industry works. So how can you have a petrochemical industry training to a chartered accountant, a lawyer or a company secretary to be able to talk in equal terms with the expert in the petrochemical industry? It's very difficult. So what is it you're going to train him? What is it you're going to train him? The only point I'm seeing here is that possibly if the training is to be done by the internal experts, they will reveal only so much that they can catch the impression of the person, not to say other things which are going to be very complicated, which they want to actually keep back. Whereas an outsider will do, probably he will open up all the way and let him know. We should see, it's a very interesting thing to watch. Now we will shift to the audit committee. From the independent directors area, we will go to the audit committee. Every listed company to have an audit committee with at least 3 independent directors. This is the first and foremost requirement. Peculiar law, look at the law, it says 1/3 of directors should be independent directors at the composition point of view. Okay? Here it says at least 3 independent directors, a matter of section itself. 177 says at least 3 independent directors. What does it mean? It means that board structure should be not less than 9. This is a drafting error. I mean, they should not have said it. But anyway, it should be majority of independent directors should have been much better. But they said at least 3 independent directors. If you have 3 independent directors, then board strength should be at least 9. because one third should be independent directors. They are trying to force it. They have not seen the reconciliation probably. That's one observation we have to see.
But it can be more than half also.
No, I am talking about the size of the board. Size of the board, it says 3 to 15 is the size of the board. But say when you say that at least 3 independent directors should be there in the audit committee, so you are expecting 3 independent directors in the company. If you are expecting 3 independent directors, board size should be at least 9.
Yeah, it is minimum.
One third should be independent directors, no?
More than one, but you may have a
Give me more, give me more.
You may have 5 directors and 3 independent.
Possible. Fine. It is possible, you are right. So then, what is the scope of independent audit committee? I think it's more or less replication of the earlier act. Recommend and appoint auditors, review and monitor independent auditors, examine financial statement auditors report, approval of related party transactions. This is a peculiar derivation which I think all of us have to spend a minute on. So far, audit committee has been a review committee. It has never been an executive committee. Here when you are saying that I am going to approve related party transaction, you are giving executive power to the audit committee. I do not know whether it is a correct thing to do or not. On a review committee, you want to bring an approval authority is a big question mark in my mind. And secondly, from the point of view of expediency of business, if it has to be, somewhere it says prior approval of audit committee. If every related party transaction has to be having a prior approval of the audit committee, it would mean that you have to have audit committee approving the transaction, transactions may get stalled, or there is a need for holding audit committee more frequently. It's again fairly, a business point of view, it's a problem area. It's a peculiar provision they have brought in. This has been reiterated by the revised corporate governance norms also. This is a peculiar problem we have going to face. And then, yeah.
Yes, the audit committee has omnibus resolution giving a particular limit for related party transactions.
Transaction has to be approved. It's not that all related party transactions to be entered to the company are approved. You can't pass like that.
No, starting of the year, if the company is passing a resolution that the related party transactions to the following parties up to the following limit will approve.
Actually, I'll come to that point actually. If you look at that 188, it says that transactions at arm's length in the ordinary course of business can be done by the company itself. There's no problem. That's not an issue at all. The issue is, let us say the project exception comes in. NTPC is trying to execute a project, for example, and BHEL is trying to do the project. If you look at the association, if you look at the extreme steps of common directorship, common shareholding and all that, NTPC and BHEL become associate companies because common shareholding by Government of India. So is it become a related party transaction? If related party transaction has to go to audit committee to be approved. You can't execute the project at all without prior approval. These are the issues come up. And then scrutiny of independent loans, investments, valuation of undertakings, evaluation of internal financial control management systems, monitoring efficient use of funds placed through IPO, cause investigate. These are all the normal conditions. Approval related party transactions is something which probably we have to flag as a new learning in this particular area. On internal audit, I think we need to spend some time. This it says actually, if you look at the bill itself, it says that we don't want Satyam episode to repeat again, and therefore we want to bring internal audit with a statutory force. Internal audit has been given a statutory force in the new Companies Act. That's very important. In the area of corporate governance, audit and internal control are able to plug the gaps in. Internal section 138 has specifically inserted, it's a new provision in the Companies Act. It says such class or class of companies as may be prescribed shall be required to appoint an internal auditor who shall either be a chartered accountant, cost accountant, or such a professional representative board accountant to conduct internal audit of the company functions and activities of the company. That is, internal audit has been given a statutory force. Internal audit has to be appointed every company. Such class or class of company as they prescribed. Rules will say, again it will go by turnover requirement, all listed companies will come into this, all larger companies will come into this, more or less all companies will have to have internal audit function, which is called statutory force. And then central government may also prescribe internal audit formats, the format in which internal audit may be reported to the board. So that is the extent to which the Companies Act is trying to bring in force of statutory force internal audit. This we have to reckon with. And board has been given a specific responsibility to respond and react to internal audit in some specific ways. It says 134.3.1 says a statement indicating development and implementation of risk management policy for the company, including identification therein of elements of risk, if any, which the opinion of the board may threaten the existence of the company. If you look at the objective of internal audit function, essentially internal audit function is the assurance function, that the company can continue to exist under all conditions. The internal structures are so strong that company can continue to exist. So threaten the existence of the company, this is a very broad word. Existence of the company can get threatened because of multiple reasons, business reasons, legal reasons, competition reasons, policy reasons, so many reasons. So from all angles, it has to be seen whether the company's existence is not threatened, for which what are the elements of risk, all of them have to be, so state the board responsibility. Board has to declare in its annual report that it has reviewed, it has assessed, is understood and seen that the company has implemented the risk management policy in such a way that the company's existence is not threatened. It's a very broad statement, and therefore board will have to get definitely involved into internal audit function in a big way. In the code of conduct, independent directors has been given a specific responsibility of saying satisfy themselves on the integrity of financial information and that financial control systems are robust and defensible. In Satyam, if FDR certificates were not checked but FDR entries have been made in balance sheet, independent director cannot say, oh, auditor has done it. No. He has to say that there is a risk management practice, there is internal control, the audit practices are so strong that the auditors have checked the veracity of each entry in the balance sheet finally, or each entry or each activity with the internal control processes. That is the extent to which the code of conduct is binding the independent director. This is a very important point to note. It's not easy to get over this.
That means independent director has to get a certificate from the auditor whether they are checked or not.
It is not enough if you get a certificate alone. He has to probe. He has to raise the right questions, seek clarification. That's what code of conduct says. In Satyam, yeah, internal auditors signed, auditors signed, everybody signed, no. But still, they are saying they want to plug the loopholes of Satyam and therefore internal audit has to have that kind of a probing. I would feel, I am a matter of 3-4 years, rightly visionary, is that you are given iPad, you have got agenda item, why not you have all the internal audit related information that internal audit gets onto your machine and look at it. That's what I am going to say going forward. Independent director's responsibility is going to go substantially higher in this now.
Yes, sir, the way minutes are drafted, they do not record every single conversation in the board meeting. For example,
As of date.
If 4 directors have asked certain questions, the minutes will say board discussed the matter.
That's
and
right.
ultimately approved the project.
That's right.
But I think the way the things are going, every single conversation, maybe it will have to be recorded.
Yeah, if I am an independent director, if I raise a question, I expect that the question raised by me is recorded in the minutes. Because performance evaluation and to protect myself, I have done my probity, I have asked the clarifications, I have done my due diligence. How do I prove it? So board minutes writing will be changing completely now.
The way team of writing the minutes now
Will undergo a change, no doubt about that. And director's responsibility statement should say that this company has laid down internal financial controls to be followed by the company and that such internal financial controls are required for operating efficiently. Director should say, I have laid down, they are working efficiently. How will they say that? Unless they have extracted relevant information from the internal auditors, they cannot say all these things. That's the kind of responsibility that's expected out of the board of directors hereafter. So internal audit is going to take a totally different dimension altogether. We'll come to the related parties transactions. If you look at 188, there are simply 3 types of related parties transactions. One, RPTs entered in the ordinary course of business. What is ordinary course of business is not very clearly defined. RPTs entered in the ordinary course of business other than transactions which are not at arm's length basis. That is, ordinary course of business you have the transaction, it's an RPT, it can be done by the company, there is no problem about it, there is no objection to that. Only thing is, if they are done it other than arm's length business, it's a problem area. It should be done arm's length area. For example, I have a company, I have a lot of premises with me, I want to give a part of my premises as for rent for my subsidiary company, I can give it, I don't have to take anybody's permission for it, I can do it, provided I charge a rent which is fair rent. That's what it comes to. I can outsource some of my work to one of my subsidiaries. I can do it, but the quid pro quo for that should be fair, market related. That's what they are trying to say. Therefore, this is the ordinary course of business. If you Google for ordinary course of business, actually you get a lot of very interesting results in that. I am a manufacturing company, and I am not in the business of renting premises. I have some spare area which I can give on rent. If I give on rent this spare area, is it an ordinary course of business or not? No. And therefore I have to go to the board for approval. That is, I have got 500 square feet of area in Narasimhan Pond area. I have got a project in Pune which is for manufacturing automobile parts. If I have 500 square feet of spaces to be given for rent, it is not ordinary course of business for my business because I am a manufacturer of automobile parts, and therefore I may have to consider as a RPT. So what is in a ordinary course of business or not is going to be a very big question mark that probably your fraternity, especially auditors, will have to struggle every time. Ordinary course of business for that particular business, is it ordinary or not, the question mark that you got to do. Ordinary course of business is not defined, not explained in the Act.
Sir,
Yeah.
the arm length price
Yeah.
is determined in the company set. But suppose tomorrow domestic transfer pricing officer says that some addition has to be done after 2 years. Will it be against the arm length price or what?
If it's going to be, if you are able to establish arm's length by your documentation, probably it should still be fine.
But the ITO at the domestic transfer pricing says that there is an addition because it's not arm length.
I don't think it will be held against you. I don't think it will be held against you.
Expression of his view of the officer, I don't think so. That will anyway dilute your sort of
Responsibility for arm's length.
responsibility or to that matter even any disciplinary action here.
Yeah. Then RPT is to be approved with the approval of the board. There are some 7-8 items which can be done only with the approval of the board, but it should be by way of resolution passed in the board meeting. It cannot be circular resolution. It has to be board resolution passed in the board meeting itself. There are 7-8 items given in the Act itself. There is no issue. And third one is RPT is entered with prior approval of the company by a special resolution. Other things, first the items which are not falling in 1 and 2, that can be done only with the prior of the company by a special resolution. We have to go to the general body and take a special resolution for it. The third one is a fairly burdensome thing. There is a rider on this in the revised corporate governance norms. I'll come to that little later. This is the related party transaction definition given by the corporate governance norms. This definition is not in the Act. What I am going to speak now is not in the Act. It is in the revised corporate governance norms. Therefore, all listed companies will have to follow this particular related party transactions. Related party transactions, as defined by SEBI in the revised corporate governance norms, is fairly stringent and fairly, anyway, I would say clear in a way. What it says is a related party transaction is transfer of resources, services or obligation between a reporting entity and a related party, regardless of whether a price is charged. Regardless of price is charged, they are, which is common practice. That is, holding company, subsidiary company, some functions like accounting, some functions like HR, etc. are commonly done. So they all become automatically related party transactions because these are trying to render a service. Therefore, whatever the approval is required for it has to be done. This is a kind of a implication for this particular statement. A related party is an entity, is a person or entity that is related to the reporting entity in different forms. Here he has given details of how two entities can be considered as related to one another. I think it's fairly understandable. There's nothing, nothing, I would say, unimaginable. Everything, whatever can be imagined as the association has been brought over here. But the only point is that this definition is not as a part of the Act. Definition is given by the revised corporate governance norms that we should be aware of.
There's a disjoint.
Yeah.
The Act gives 188
Yeah.
governs.
They have to read along over and above that this has come. This is what the problem is. And then what is that? What are the policies? All companies should prepare a policy on dealing with related party transactions. This is again coming from the revised corporate governance norms. What it says is that all companies should have a policy. Now they are going to say, if you say that I have got a policy on related parties, not sufficient. The policy should say A, B, C, D, E, F. What are they? Criteria to decide what is RPT, its materiality, it has to be prescribed in the policy. Whether it is at arm's length or not should be disclosed. Approval levels for RPTs has to be disclosed. What is the level of disclosure has to be disclosed. Why is it beneficial to the company to have RPT has to be disclosed. And level of approval for each type of RPT, that is whether board will approve, audit committee will approve, who will approve, etc. should be very clearly stated in the policy. So annual report of the company should disclose the policy towards the related parties is the requirement. And such RPT policy should be on the website also. In addition to the annual report, it should be on the website also. The Companies Act says that audit committee shall act according to terms of reference by the board and shall include approval subsequent modification of RPTs. Whereas the proposed corporate governance says all RPTs require prior approval of audit committee. The word prior approval is not mentioned in the Act. Whereas revised corporate governance norms are using the word prior approval. It's a huge difference. And then the revised corporate governance norm says that companies should have a policy for determining what is materiality. Act is not envisaging. Act is not distinguishing between what is a material RPT and what is a non-material RPT, whereas the revised corporate governance norms are expecting that you will mention what is material RPT as such. So materiality definition has to be specifically brought in the requirement under the revised corporate governance norms. And then the material RPTs have to be disclosed to stock exchange on a quarterly basis. This has to be disclosed to the exchanges. And I can easily imagine that once something is disclosed to exchange, SEBI will say, my dear exchange, please ask some questions to the company. So this goes on. This cycle is on now. One more thing is, this is again an important requirement. Section 188 of the Companies Act says, approval RPT resolution in related parties abstain from voting. What it says is that, in the case of a special RPT, related party transaction, it has to be approved by special resolution by the company, wherein related party should not be voting. In practical terms, what's going to happen is, if promoter is holding a 50% or 60% or 50% votes, he should not be voting in it. And you will find a few shareholders deciding whether a particular RPT should be conducted or not. It's actually going to be fairly impractical situation going to be, because we have seen in a company having about 1 lakh shareholders, actual number of shareholders attending a meeting will be 30-40. Those 30-40 people will decide whether RPT is going to be approved or not. So to swing the mood of 30-40 people is not difficult.